Imagine having the ultimate competitive advantage. Imagine every piece of your content attracting ideal clients to you, not chasing them down. That's not a dream, it's what's possible with the right strategy. And if you haven't heard by now, Jeb and LinkedIn expert Bryn Tillman have written the playbook that will evolve the way you sell. Their new book, The LinkedIn Edge, is your ultimate resource for turning LinkedIn into a revenue-generating machine. You'll learn how to prospect with power, network with a purpose, and build a brand that attracts clients to you. Not only that, but they dive into the fundamentals of using AI so that you won't get left behind. Don't wait. The LinkedIn Edge is on sale everywhere you buy books.
Consistency is huge. I've seen a lot of flash in the pan, very talented folks who are very talented for a very short period of time, and then they kind of just lull off, right? For me, it's, you 1% better every day, right? Over a year is 37%, right? So that's huge. Like if you just consistently show up and constantly trying to improve that 1% better, it's insane what it can get you.
Welcome back to the Sales Gravy Podcast. Jeb Blount Jr. here, filling in for Jeb Blount Sr. on this one. And today we've got a really fun guest. I'm really excited about this conversation. I'd like to introduce you to Tim Hester, who leads sales and development and marketing for Alliance HCM. And after beginning his career as an SDR, he spent the past several years designing and developing the processes and the coaching for teams at Alliance and helping them understand how to develop really great pipeline flow. Tim focuses on synchronizing outbound outreach with broader campaigns, optimizing go-to-market tactics, and helps reps hit their numbers consistently. Tim, I really appreciate you being on the Sales Gravy Podcast. Is there anything that I missed in the introduction there?
No, man, I need you to join me with every meeting and just do that intro. That was fantastic. Thank you.
For the audience, I do have packages. So if you're a guest on the podcast, I can come and give you an introduction anywhere you go. Just talk to my sales team about what that looks like. So but I do want to talk. I want to start with your SDR career. So like you went from SDR to a process designer, which I think is a really interesting place to begin this conversation. So early in your career, you were making the cold calls, you were doing all of the SDR work, and today you're actually building the frameworks that your teams use. So what's a lesson from your SDR days that still influences how you go about designing the frameworks and the processes today?
Man, I learned a lot of lessons, and I've learned a ton of lessons. I'm still going to keep on learning them. So I think the big one that I still go back to constantly is when I first started as an SDR, I had really no sales experience. Right out of college, I was a pharmacy technician before that. So it was like retail. I talked to people, but never sold anything. So I found myself early on trying anything and everything. And I found that I would make the mistake of overhauling my talk track too frequently. So like I get shut down really hard. Someone, literally laughed me off the phone, and I would throw everything out. Say, all right, I got to start from scratch. Really trying to find like that silver bullet. But I really learned that I needed to take small changes, test them out, validate what was working, what wasn't. And the best way I could do that was breaking it down in bite sizes. So I have a distinct memory of driving into work on Interstate 45. If you're in Houston, Texas, you've been on 45, right? Stop and go traffic. The CEO had recommended fanatical prospecting, so I was actually listening to an audiobook. And anything with prospecting, objection handling, just repeat. I forget what those chapters are, but just repeat, right? And saying it out loud and taking one or two tidbits. And then as soon as I got to the office, hit the phone, push to get 10 connections so I could really validate what was working. And I still got the people that hung up on me, right? And, and that was fine. And instead of just giving up and moving on, it was, okay, that's one. Let's go get 9 more and then see what's working. If it really is a bad addition or a good one. And I found that what was working and maybe this helped, 20 or 30% increase in successful meetings booked or something like that. And so
Wow.
That kind of lesson of taking small tweaks, small changes versus pivoting 100%, because sometimes you just don't know what's working or not, really stuck with me. And today when building out some kind of process or cadence flow or something with the team, we always focus on testing one item at a time, and really just trying to validate it with data before we scale it out. I drilled that into the team of just, hey, it's going to be tempting just to give up on something, be a talk track process, whatever you're doing, but take some time, make one small change and see if that helps. And if that doesn't, or if that's a big change, and what's awesome is when you find what it makes a huge change for someone is you can take that and share it with the team, right? Now everyone's making that small pivot.
I think this is a really important lesson because I am guilty of this 100, 200 times over, is that when you're developing your messaging, you're developing your voice. And I think that some of this challenge comes into like, okay, well, we give you a script, right? Or we give you something to say, as an SDR team, and you go out and you get one no, and it was because you read it off of a page and it really wasn't your voice. And then you find your voice, and that's a really great thing. But then you find your voice and you do it and you find what works. I want to ask you about the flip side of this coin, which you've tested it, you've developed it, you've got it, it's working, and you're putting meetings in the calendar, but salespeople get bored. I mean, the way that we are. And so something's working for a while, but then it doesn't work a few times in a row and people just change it all. So how do you help teams, your team's mindset around change when it comes to the things that are working, but have been working for a little longer than than a 2-week period, maybe a 6-month period. And they're trying I guess the initial messaging has now been tweaked little bit by little bit until 6 months later, it doesn't even sound the same. So what is that conversation like?
Man, it's a great question because I've been there too. I mean, sometimes you just get stagnation happens, right? And like you pull your head up from work and you're like, oh crap, I'm not doing what got me here. I think I feel like in this conversation, I'll probably say data way too much, but like having the kind of data and the benchmark to go back to is huge. So, and that's the beauty of making small changes is if you need to, you can go back and say, hey, let's go back when you were having that success. Let's go, if it's talk track, let's go listen to those calls. Let's compare. Okay. And what I typically find is something did change. It's like, why aren't you doing that anymore? It's like, oh, I got this, or I heard this. And you just kind of slowly pivot away. Maybe it's not a sudden change, but you slowly move away from what got you there. So I think that's huge, is anchoring back. If you have some record of success, anchoring back what led to that, making adjustments there.
I think that's a really great pivot point, is like data. Okay, so now you've got these messages, and I want to ask you about keeping your messages consistent. You talked about small changes, so before you scale out, you actually work on bite-sized pieces at a time when it comes to the messaging flow. But data-wise, there's a lot of sales teams and SDR teams that have data, but I might say, I have this whole pool of data. I've done an audit. I can see where I'm pulling data from, but what should I be looking at? And since you've been doing this and doing this successfully, what is it that you keep your eye on every single day on your dashboard that allows you to make decisions that keep your mission in mind, rather than, I saw this really cool piece of data this 1 month, so why don't we just change that way? How do you go about that in your own mind, and then maybe as a leader?
Simple's better. I'm a very simple guy, Jeb. So like I wouldn't say I'm the brightest guy in the room. If I am, we're in the wrong, like that's the bad room to be in. So what I found, like when I inherited this team, it was a small team. We were scaling it out and building it out. What I found was we had a really crowded dashboard, and there was all these cool kind of metrics on there. And I remember getting, I kind of walked through it, and someone was explaining to me, and it was just a lot of noise. And I talked to the reps, and it was like, oh yeah, I don't trust that data, or I don't even know what that's for, what that means to me. And I found that they were kind of tuning it out. So, I mean, the point of a dashboard is accountability, identifying success, identifying areas we can pivot. So we stripped it all down and we brought it to 4 metrics that we tracked for our SDR team. And these are the ones I check on every day, multiple times throughout the day, if we're going to be honest. But it's dials. We do multi-channel, multi-touch, but we see the best conversion rate on our dials. Everyone can pick up the phone. So at the very least, it shows effort, shows how you work in the database. We then look at connections, which we define as I'm talking to a decision maker. I don't care if you talk to a gatekeeper, someone that reports up to the decision maker. We only want to see when you talk to a decision maker, because it shows data quality. It shows how they're working the database, if they're working enough where it's warming up and they're able to connect. And then it leads to the next one we look at, which is meetings scheduled. So if I'm properly tracking my connections, I can start getting my conversion rate, right, to talking to someone and converting them to a meeting. And then meetings ran, because if they're not showing up and running, then what are we doing? I wouldn't be here probably. So those are the four. And to be honest, I focus on the latter three. I'm not going to be someone that, hey, make dials to make dials. But if you have a goal, if I need to talk to 5 people to book one meeting, then you can quickly do math of how many people you need to talk to. When we look at dials to connect just for that, right? So, okay, if you need to have this many connections, how many dials that equate to?
So your team, in their SDRs. So
Yep.
are they fairly senior SDRs, or are they new in the business? First job out of college. What does your team makeup look like? Because I think that's important for people listening on how you actually manage this team and their relationship with account executives or people who finish the sale.
It's a mixed bag. I've got some tenured folks, a year or more.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of my team is under a year. Pretty proud of that, because most of them have either promoted out to a different position or even somewhere else in the org. I've had SDRs move to operations and support side because they just liked it better. They like the technology and developing that. That's perfectly fine. If we find a cultural fit, then let's find the right fit for them skill wise. So most of them have some sales experience, but very limited. Or we've had quite a few. I've had teachers, I've had people on the healthcare side come in. So it really is a mixed bag. And we really try to facilitate the development there and focus in on training to help, help them ramp faster because of that. But yeah, so it's a mixed bag there of tenure, especially right now, because we've had some promote out recently.
We've been teaching this, and it's been taught by many of the greats that go through sales in this business, and especially in business, in your space as well. You want to be experts to a degree. You want to be able to speak the language of the people that you are selling to, especially when you're talking about complex technology or business changing technology. I always retell the story that I worked for a really large human resources and payroll software organization. And I was a 20-year-old out of college, or 20-year-old. I think I was still in college, actually. And I called this CFO, and I told him that I could save him money and increase his EBITDA. And he said, "What is EBITDA?" And I had to say to him, "Sir, I don't know. I don't know what this is." And as an SDR, and you're working in these roles, and maybe you're not from the business, how do you help people create messaging within your organization and understand it to be able to speak like they have been there before? What does that conversation look like within your organization? How do you coach people to be there?
Well, first of all, I'm surprised you brought up that the other payroll and HR provider, because I remember the day when I saw it on your LinkedIn, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can buy another Jeb book. But no, it's a struggle, man, because and I think that's the value of an SDR role. What we're doing here is we can take someone, cultivate their skills and their knowledge in this space, and hopefully develop them where they can promote out to an outside sales role where they're having maybe more of a higher level business conversation with a CFO or something, right? When it comes to something as precious as payroll, which is someone's paycheck, social security, all this kind of stuff. What we found really helpful with the SDR and training them is focusing on a few things. I mean, one being our SDRs are simply matchmakers. They're going to schedule an introductory meeting and bring in an account executive who's going to have that experience to speak to them. So with that in mind, they don't have to be the payroll expert. They're focused on selling time is what they're focused on. So that's allowed us to help them focus on mechanics and knowledge is kind of what we developed in that first week. The mechanics is CRM management, using the dialer, using the data tool, some of the even objection handling. We use the ledge technique, by the way, too. So, and going over that, some of that they can develop just the mechanics of it. And when this is said to you, you say this. There is a knowledge piece. We spend some time on persona and focusing on and it's going to be a pretty narrow persona type. And then knowledge around the tech stack and using it. And then we have this third piece that we always communicate is what we just call as art. And like, that's going to come with time. You're going to be on these meetings. You're going to see more demos. You'll have access to discovery recordings and things like that you can review and kind of sharpen your skill set. But we're not expecting you to have it in the first few weeks. We want you to execute really well in the mechanics and some of these knowledge persona kind of things. And that art's going to come with time. We found kind of setting that expectation allows someone to run really fast, and it might not be like the straightest line, but they're going to move really fast. And then we can work on straightening it up as they grow in the company.
I think what you said, it challenges the way that I think about it. And I love that, which is you teach the mechanics first, which is, okay, how do you deal with an objection? This is what it sounds like. I mean, you've read the book, you've read objections and fanatical prospecting. There's really 5 buckets that you can really put it in, which is like, I'm not interested, I'm too busy, we don't have the budget, I'm not the right person, and whatever, maybe some industry specific ones that you have. But you should know how to respond to them. That doesn't take expertise in what you sell to respond to an objection. I like the rolling through the CRM and managing it well, and then learning how to have a relationship with discovery calls and demos and your AEs, and then the art of it, which comes later. I think that people want to jump the gun, and I was even jumping the gun on the knowledge. Like I want to be an expert. When I was at that other company, I wanted to be the expert at HCM software. That was crazy. I was 20 years old and I barely had a paycheck before, and I was trying to talk to a 40-year veteran in the business, and that it wasn't going to work. So I think that's a really good approach there. I think that from your end, when you are bringing new people on in the SDR role, and you talk about those training buckets that you have in your mind and your philosophies, what are the biggest gaps that leaders should prepare for as they are hiring new team members on, as team members leave and go to different parts of the organization or go to different businesses? And I am in the SDR world, you're sort of always building a team. So what should you be looking for, and what are the gaps that you should prepare for?
Yeah. Well, they shouldn't do what I did.
Okay, start number 1. Don't do it. Don't do it, Tim.
So I assumed way too much, and I threw a lot of people into the fire. I was like, "Hey, go figure it out." And I thought we prepared them enough, and we're still fine tuning. Every hiring class we go back, what worked, what didn't work. Let's change this. Let's update this. So we've gotten better with those kind of buckets I was talking about before, focusing on those and developing that. Because we used to throw the whole book at them, man. Try to here's payroll 101. You got to figure it out, and they're over there just going, how do I dial? And what do I do if, someone yells at me, So that was a big piece of it. The other thing about that is once we kind of identified even the training side of it, I definitely got, almost, I don't know what to call it, resume blinded, where you start looking at someone's resume. Oh, this person has sales experience, or when they're in the interview, they can hold a conversation very well, and they're really engaging, and they they try to close me after the second interview. That's a great sign. So you can kind of get these I would just call them kind of false positives. And what I really found is a lot of the things, especially in the role I'm bringing on, I know it's different for everyone, but for me, it was, we can train a lot. But the things I can't train, I would put in a bucket of character, like someone's work ethic, someone's mindset, how they approach the day, how they approach their prospecting blocks and things like that. It's really hard to coach that and train that. And I've tried way too many times, so I didn't find that. And when it came to the recruiting side, it became more of a focus on those pieces, which are harder to identify, but it's kind of drilling down in someone's life, what got them there, how they approach their past jobs, even down to kind of what their parents do and what that was like, because that could drive a lot as well. So we saw a shift there, and that's what I think allowed us to hire some people that were just completely not in the space or in sales, because they had those qualities. And it's like, well, if I can equip you with some basic skill sets, and I'm not the expert, but I'll give you what I got, we saw some pretty good returns because they could pick it up fast because they were checking the box on the more intuitive side.
You have people who are tenured, year plus, and you have folks that are newer. How do you deal with burnout in the SDR space? How do you help someone get past month 3 where it's all shiny, new, and sexy, and then month 4 is oh crap, I have to do this again. So what happened? What are the conversations like that you have found that help people push past the the cupcake period and into the okay, this is going to be a career kind of period?
High level is constant alignment with the rep on what they want to achieve in their career. I'm never going to be someone that holds them to a seat. You've done this role. It's your heart has to be in it. You can't just smile and dial it. You just won't get the same results. So if someone really isn't happy in the role, it's more of like, can we find a better spot for you? But one thing we identified early on, because we would just have an SDR and we didn't have anything that brought any kind of momentum to the progression. So we created an SDR roadmap. And we basically have like kind of tiered levels of SDR positions with expectations behind them. Hey, you're just starting out, you're hitting quota, and then someone who's above and beyond, and now they're training new SDRs. And we built it around just performance thresholds. So it wasn't based on duration or anything. It's you hit this number, you move up, and there's a little bump on comp and, more responsibilities. And it just made it very clear. I mean, it made no sense if I had someone that had been here for a year and they're saying, hey, I deserve promotion. It's like, well, let's go look at the dashboard. But also didn't like if you had someone that had been there 30 days and was kicking butt. It's like, you should be sharing this with the team. Like, you should be leading the way. So doing that helped a lot. And even on the recruiting side, because we set the expectation of, hey, you control your destiny. And I've had people move from here to the last role in 60 days. You can do the same. So it's up to you. And that's brought a lot of motivation and clarity for them. And then beyond that, I would define it as career alignment. Like, where's your skill set at? Where's your passion at? And let's see if we can map out your career. And I work right alongside them to sharpen those skill sets to hopefully move them into that next position if that's what they want.
I think that's a really good lesson in incentives and motivation. One of the challenges with SDR roles that I've found in my early career was that I would go to a company and it was a year before you were going to have the opportunity to even ask for that next role or that next position. And you can kill it in an SDR role in 30 days, but if you crush it in 30, 60 days and you've completely exceeded everything, but it just doesn't really go anywhere, like it's hard to keep that motivation up. So I think that's a really smart way to go about that. My last question, which is sort of rolling off of the compensation incentive structure that you have built for your team, which is, as a leader, if you had to go back and tell yourself 1-2 lessons when you started, if you could turn the time machine and go back, what would those lessons be, or what would you say to yourself before you even took the job so that you could be even more successful than you are today?
I'll do a two-parter. Consistency is huge. I've seen a lot of flash in the pan, very talented folks who are very talented for a very short period of time, and then they kind of just lull off, right? Which is fine. For me, you 1% better every day, right? Over a year is 37%, right? With compound effects. You can tell I like atomic habits too. So that's huge. Like, if you just consistently show up and constantly trying to improve that 1% better, it's insane what it can get you, right? I wish I had developed that kind of mindset earlier. The second piece of that would be, getting to 2x is just as hard as getting to 10x. I can't think of the book title. There's a book on it. That mindset, I think, is huge to think about. Is a lot of times our efforts do move the needle, but there might be something out there that would move it even further or maximize it if we just cut out maybe the smaller things and focus on the stuff that's really going to have a major impact on our role or career. It would have a huge difference.
I think that's perfect. I really appreciate your time, Tim, and your team is incredible. We had a chance to meet you and your team at a conference, and that's why we have you on the podcast here, is that you are doing a really great job with your SDRs. Many folks should learn from you and take these lessons to heart, but I know that you have even more knowledge than what you shared on this podcast. So where can people learn more from you or connect with you so that if they had more questions, maybe you could help them out?
Yeah. So if they want to check me out on LinkedIn, I'm on there. It's Timothy Hester on LinkedIn. Really not involved on any other social. So come connect with me on there though. I love to connect and even hop on a call with some folks, because I think that's the best way to improve is just hit ideas around and see what others are doing. So
Tim, a pleasure to have you on the Sales Gravy podcast, and we will catch you all next time here at Sales Gravy Studios.
Hi, I'm Jeb Blount, best-selling author of Fanatical Prospecting, Sales EQ, Objections Inc., and my brand new book, The LinkedIn Edge. Companies and people from all over the world come to me to get answers to their toughest sales and growth questions. And that's why I created Ask Jeb. It's a segment on the Sales Gravy podcast where you can come and ask me anything. If you want to get on the show, just go to salesgravy.com/ask. That's salesgravy.com/ask. One of our great producers will get you on and you can ask me anything about sales. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to click like and subscribe so you never miss a single video. And if you want more sales training content, go to learn.salesgravy.com.